Okay, so director John Landis, who made American Werewolf in London, Animal House,
is not here.
Is not here.
So,
but he has a quote that I want to talk about,
okay,
which I think is, embodies the spirit of Asylum and David Michael Latt. So he once said that a successful independent film is always something that a big studio is either afraid, unable, or unwilling to make. I want to ask, what do you feel is the key to the phenomenal success, David, that you've had with the Asylum?
We don't care. We don't. We love making movies. And, we make movies because we're passionate about it. We have, thank you for saying not long ago I went to Loyola, but that was about 30 years ago. So we've been doing this a long time, and if you don't have that passion to want to make movies, because it's not easy, it's not hard, let's face it, it's making movies, but then you're just not gonna, just don't do it, do something else. And so, the key is really loving what you do, and trying to do the best job as possible. And you may say, well, a lot of your films aren't great. It's like, okay, but we try to make great films. Believe it or not, and films that are very entertaining to us and work well with the buyers. And the buyers, and this is part of the not caring, knows their audience. So when sci-fi says go make Sharks in a Tornado or whatever, we're trusting that those buyers know their audience better than we know their audience, because we don't know their audience for the most part. We're fans of it, but we're going to make something that's going to cater to us rather than they're going to cater to everybody else. So
not trying to please all of the people all of the time.
For the Asylum, just to kind of give a bigger view of the whole thing, we're a studio. So that means that not only do we produce movies, but we sell movies, and we've been doing this for 20 plus years. And so, yes, we, in order to keep the doors open, we make deals with the networks and the broadcasters and the distributors, and they tell us what to make, and we go make it because we're prostitutes.
Or artisans on assignment is another way to put it, right?
Sure.
There you go, okay.
Artists.
Can we talk a little bit more about that, about the output deals, how the business of the Asylum works in terms of, catering to the specific need of an exhibitor, a network, that kind of thing?
You're not going to go out of here and start a studio. So it's like, unfortunately, that took at least 3 weeks for us to do. But part of how we grew into where we are is, making sure that those connections, that we have dinners and we talk to these guys and gals and say, what do you want? And we, go back, we go and put these things together and pitch them, the project that they're interested in, and we kind of go from there. And that's the real simple view of it all.
But the Asylum self-finances. That's the way the model works?
Yes. The model of the Asylum is that we self-finance. I can give you a little history of the Asylum. Back in the Prohibition days, where there were companies called Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, because they had discs that you watched movies on and you didn't stream them. These were the glory days.
My 5-year-old thought they were coasters.
Yeah, and they are at this point. That's how people back in the day used to watch films. We had an output deal with early in the company with Hollywood Video, where we would release art house movies. That's how we started art house. We were young and stupid and needed the money. So we were doing art house films, releasing them from first-time filmmakers. And that was a very successful program. Every month we would release 5 up to about 10 movies. That's a lot of movies per year that we would purchase, just for those rights of the home video market. And it did really well for a number of years. And then Blockbuster got involved, so we want to do kind of the same program, but not really. We really want you to kind of look at the genre films to do. And the genre films, because they outsell the art house films by 3001. I mean, it's insane. Everyone says they want art house films, but they really go for the explosions and the car chase.
So when you're defining genre films, you're saying horror, thriller, science fiction, sci-fi adventure?
Yes. Anything but drama.
Comedies in there too?
You can have that, but we don't do it.
Okay.
Believe it or not. Even Sharknado is not a comedy. And that's my running joke with getting the scripts. Every draft, I'd be like, "This isn't an effing comedy." I would write all over the thing. Stop making jokes. That's a whole nother story. Anyways, the blockbuster model, they wanted us to bring them genre films, which because we're a small company, we couldn't afford to do. We couldn't, the genre films at the time, the horror films, were being bought out by Lionsgate or bigger companies that would just give them these minimum guarantees called an MG, and we couldn't compete with that. So,
and that's money that's given up front.
Right. They'll give a filmmaker $100,000 for the rights to put it in Blockbuster because you're going to make $200,000 or whatever it is. I mean, there's a profit, scale. But the filmmakers walk away with $100,000 just as a thank you for signing the thing. Well, a company like ours, we don't have that kind of money. It was like, well, please give it to me, please, for nothing. But we'll share higher on the percentage. So, I mean, it was a good deal, but it wasn't Lionsgate or Sony or whomever releasing those. So what we talked to Blockbuster about was, look, we're struggling to find these titles.
Right.
So what could we do? Why don't we give you exactly what you want? Like, what do you need? A Western zombie, movie? We'll go make that for the same money that we, like an MG kind of thing, $50,000, $100,000. And what we'll do is we'll fill that slot because we made an agreement to do like a monthly kind of slot thing. We will make that on a monthly basis, and you'll release it, and then we'll just get the cash from that, and it'll kind of circle on top of each other. So we found an investor to give us $500,000 because we said that will get us for the first 6 movies, and then the way the cash flow would work, once that hits the market, though, that title, that money will pay for the next film, and the next film, and the next film, and the next film.
Like a domino effect
kind
of thing.
Except the dominoes keep getting built, and then keep falling. And that model worked to this day. So now we are 15, 20 years later, and that model still works. And we still make 2 films a month based on that model. I mean, it went from 1 film a month to 2 films, and it just, you're making these films. Now, Blockbuster and Hollywood don't exist anymore, so the players have changed. And so the dynamics are different. And in this market, it's a miserable market, so it's not the heydays of DVD, but it's still, conceptually, it's the same kind of thing. So that's how we've cash flowed these movies. That's how we own the IPs of everything that we do. So Sharknado may have been made with Sci-Fi, but we paid for it. It's ours. Z Nation, the same thing. Black Summer, the same thing. Which is not how you make friends in this town. Maybe this town, I don't know. It could be how you make friends in this town.
Chicago's friendly.
But, you're a little more dangerous because you own things. And nowadays, the business has moved into you need IPs. This is the short word for intellectual property. So if you own something, that's it. You're revered, until you don't own it, and then you're trash. So that's the thing to do, and we own all of our properties. So all the 300 titles, all the TV series, and everything else.
You own all the rights to Sharknado and everything?
We do.
So let's talk a little bit about that. A lot of people, have discovered the Asylum through Sharknado. How did that process come to be? Did someone just... And
sorry, inappropriate.
No comment. So how did Sharknado come to be? Like, did someone come into the office one day and say, "I've got it, Sharknado," or how did it happen?
They had a cigar and they said, "Listen, Chief, this is how we're gonna do." No, Sharknado was made because. We had up to that point a really nice relationship with Sci-Fi, and they were out here for a market at something called it's either AFM or Comic-Con, one of the 2 markets, and that we attend. And we were having dinner, and they said, "Well, what are you guys working on?" We said, "Well, we're working on for Japan. We have this series, the film they want us to do. It's about a tornado that hits the Pacific coast, pulls up a bunch of sharks, dumps it into Los Angeles, and we call it Shark Storm." And the two execs, maybe the three execs at Sci-Fi, just went, okay. A couple years ago, we did a film called Leprechaun, okay? And in the script, they were talking about this event that happened, these two police officers that happened in the other town. And the event was, wow, did you, that was really something. Yeah, we survived that. What was it? Well, it was a Sharknado, and we did, we got Jones out in time and whatever. And we loved the title Sharknado, and we could never find a plot. Would you mind if we take your plot? We'll greenlight the film right here if you could use our title. And we're like, well, that's the dumbest title ever. But we'll do it because Sci-Fi is a great partner. That means more money goes to it. Mm-hmm. That means more resources go to it, and that's how that moment happened. Flash forward, now we're in the process of making it. We're looking for directors, and one of my old friends who had directed for us a few times, we pitched him. We said, he's the guy to direct this movie. This is the guy that's going to direct this movie. And we pitched it to him. We said, hey, we got the tornadoes, and it dumps it on LA, and it's called Sharknado. And he looked at me and goes, I wrote Leprechaun. That's my title.
So that title has kind of been a benefit and a hazard for you in at least making the first film. That I had heard rumored that you didn't go by the title Sharknado in production originally.
Well, we initially did. We went out there. We thought, in the back of our heads, we were always going to call it Sharkstorm. We were going to release it as a company that releases movies. We were going to release this Sharks. If Sci-Fi wanted to call it Sharknado, fine. Go with God. Have fun. Mm-hmm. Good luck with that title. And so we just thought, okay, let's just, that's fine, but we're going to call it Sharkstorm. And we went out initially, no one wanted to do it. The two people that said yes, John Hurd and Tara Reid. Tara Reid, because I don't think she read it. I could be wrong, I'm not trying to, but a lot of stars, they look at the paycheck and they go, okay, look, this is a crappy little film and it just gets me through the weekend, we're good. Don't worry about it, and just move on, but she signed on. And John Hurd, because he was so sick of people referring to him as the dad from Home Alone. and he looked at Sharknado as this entryway to this moment where people, because he thought the film would do amazing work. And so actually when he died a couple years ago, he is quoted saying his favorite films he ever did were Sharknado and Home Alone, because they really changed the landscape for him. And this is a man who did so many big things. So they signed on, but we couldn't get anybody else. We couldn't find a director, we couldn't find the lead actor, we couldn't do anyone. And so I'm like, all right, just change the name to Dark Skies. Okay, it's just because Sharknado is just killing it, and it's not. People won't read it because they think it's a dumb little, campy film. But if we call it Dark Skies, it sounds a little more interesting. And sure enough, just to kind of wrap up the director story, that director ultimately ended up directing. That was Anthony Ferrante, and he's done all 6 movies. But then we got everybody else to join it. It was an easy casting, until 3 days into we're shooting, and Ian Ziering finds out it's going to be called Sharknado. And the moment he finds out it's called Sharknado, and I'm not speaking out of school because he talks about this as well, he goes into his trailer, gets on his phone to his manager, says, get me off this boat. I am not doing a film called Sharknado. This is going to ruin my career. And basically, he kind of unionized everybody. All the actors like, did you know this was called Sharknado? And everyone's like, no, we're screwed. We're never going to work in this town again. And it took a few hours of hostage negotiations to get him out of the trailer and everybody else to convince them that we'll call it Dark Skies. Don't worry about that. Whatever, or Sharkstorm or whatever it is. Whatever Sci-Fi calls it, they're going to call it. We can't control that, but we're going to call it something else. And Anthony was very good about the whole thing. The director, he's like, look, don't worry about what they call it. No one's going to watch this movie anyways. It's just a film.
And that was a little incorrect.
A little incorrect.
Yeah.
And also trust him, because Anthony is a phenomenal director, and he knows how to talk to actors and to make something work. And to his credit, he made Sharknado work. And the rest, as they say, is history. So
and
it worked
so
out.
when Sharknado came out, the night it premiered, it had just this tweet storm that it was like 7,000 tweets, or 6,000 tweets an hour or something.
Or a second.
A second?
Yeah.
Holy cow!
It broke the internet, as they say. I mean, it's like at the time Kanye West's wedding was like the highest thing that like killed that. I mean, it was the numbers were insane. I was new to Twitter at the time. I'm old, and I thought. I literally, not only did I think I was breaking it, I mean, I'm doing something wrong. I called up the office, our techie guys, and I said, what am I doing wrong with Twitter? Because something is wrong. Because I can't get into the conversation. I can't, it just keeps going, and I can't, I mean, something is wrong. Am I on a feed that just does everything? He's like, yeah, everything's fine. People are just talking about it. And,
it's amazing.
And it was fun. It was fun for that night to kind of sift through all that stuff and see that Patton Oswalt was talking about it, Will Wheaton, Chris Hardwick, all the nerds were talking about it, and then some bigger actors were talking about it, and
then the next day it was like on the Today Show and MSNBC and CNN and Fox News.
As a producer, you're like, oh, that's really cool. All these people talk. I'm going to bed now, and then you wake up, and then the world has changed. And yes, we're part of the news cycle, not just for that morning, not just for that evening, for the next 3 days. And and on the cover of New York Post, and it just. There is no reason for this to happen. As said, it's just there are no plane crashes that day. No one, nothing horrible happened. Trump wasn't president. I mean, it just, the headlines were actually a manageable moment.
And you ran into like the opposite problem with Sharknado 2 in terms of cast, right? That everybody was like calling you to be in it.
I wouldn't say they would knock it down our door, but we had an easier time casting it, and we were doing more cameo related things. We kind of changed the model to be, hey, these cameos worked really well. Let's put some more cameos in there. And so you had, we were reaching for the stars in some of it, and so like, we're not going in that. We're not doing that film. But then for the most part, it was a much easier cast. And then every film the cameo count went from like 15 cameos to 20 to like by the time we got to the last film, there was 85 cameos.
85 cameos.
I mean, there's just like one going like because people just wanted just to have one line. It's like, can I be killed by it? We would get calls from sci-fi going, okay, we have the Chris leads. They're going to come tomorrow at noon. What do you have for them? It's like, I don't know, but we had to like on the fly keep, writing things that we would get from the network, from one of their sister stations, Bravo or E or whatever, that wanted to cross promote and put something in there. And it's like, but we. So
what was the most unexpected request or call or celebrity that you've had do a cameo?
Wow, I should have looked at the questions ahead of time. When we are done making the movie, and then someone wants to do it, and they're big enough where you have to go, oh crap. All right, let's figure it out.
Yeah.
I'm sure there were a lot of those. The one that comes to mind, though, is probably not as big as some of the ones I'm thinking that really deserve to be like, oh crap, we got to do it. But NASCAR came in at the last moment. We'd already shot the film, and this is for number 3, and it's like, it's like Joey Logano and another big driver that we, like 2 months after the show was done, we had to go and find them in some NASCAR racetrack and get them to go, oh hell no, and shoot something. So the ones that come in after the film was already made it's challenging, but we do it. And we did a whole thing, like LaToya Jackson wanted to go say, all right, but we've already shot the film, let's just figure this out.
So how, it just seems like the Asylum continues to accomplish the impossible. And in doing so, taking what should normally be like a $100-200 million script to shoot, having action, a lot of special effects, and you guys do it for just a fraction of that. What's the secret?
Times zero. Yeah.
Times zero.
Yeah.
How do you pull that off?
Well, we're not very smart. We have huge appetites, and we have a passion for making films. So I was just, in fact, pitched something about 2 weeks ago and maybe about a week ago, and he goes, it's great. It's budget friendly. It takes place in one room with 3 actors. I'm like, no, stop. I don't want to make that movie. I don't want to watch that movie. I don't want to make that movie. Okay, we're limited by our budgets, but I want the script to read like $100 million movie, and then we'll figure it out. We'll just figure it out. The biggest challenge film that we've ever had to do was a film called Titanic 2. You're welcome. Calm down. And the challenge for that is because an ocean liner was difficult to shoot on.
Wow.
I mean, the budget was nothing. It was a couple $100,000. And within the concept of the story, it's like the side adventure. The boat turns over, it floods out. You had to do a lot of water stuff. Super afraid of water because anytime you do water, even if it's rain, it's very, very expensive. And
why?
Because you need a tank, you need a fireman, you need, all these regulations. Is very, you don't want to kill anybody. Really. Looks bad in your resume.
True.
So doing water is very scary as a producer to do with no money. But we shot one day at the Queen Mary. We shot the rest at a hotel. So you had the narrow hallways, and it was old school, so it had the wood, work. So it went in seamlessly, and we filled the pool up and did some flats and turned it upside down in the pool, and was able to do the water stuff. So it all worked out. And once we did that film, it's like we could do it. We could do anything.
That's amazing.
And so we've really never put any kind of limits to the shows. Nowadays, because the landscape is so different and it's so miserable and no one makes money in this business and you're all screwed, the budgets are so insanely low that I do put limits on it. So I make sure there's no more than 10 speaking parts. This is for the under $100,000 shows that we're doing. No more than 10 speaking parts, no more than, you can do 2 location moves, but no more than 2 location moves. Just make sure the locations have at least 3 different components to it. So if you're in a building, so you have the alley you could use, the street you could use, maybe the inside you could change the library, whatever it is, but you're not moving because location moves are very costly.
Yeah.
No more than 85 visual effects.
85,
it's still a lot.
Still a lot, yeah.
Well, we have, our studio has about 30 employees that are full-time, and part of that is production. And so we have a whole group of visual effects artists, Emmy award-winning, great, amazing visual effects artists. And then the rest are mostly sales and corporate. We have a post team and all that stuff. So, but we try and keep it very contained. I mean, these shows are shot on the really low budget ones, 8 days.
8 days.
8 days. But when we do the network stuff, the Christmas movies, the Hallmarky stuff, those are 14 to 20 days. The really big budget stuff, the Sharknados of the world, which we don't do anymore, those were 18 days, but really they ended up being like 30 days because of just, hey, Joey Legato wants to shoot something today. So all right.
So at DePaul School of Cinematic Arts, the screenwriting students, one of their assignments that they get is the 3-2-1 assignment, where it's specifically geared towards coming up with a concept and a pitch for what would be a micro-budget film, where you have 3 speaking parts, 2 locations, and 1 twist. What is the combination of the new and the familiar with it? Would you recommend we've got a lot of screenwriters, producers, directors in the room, when people come out to Los Angeles for the first time, would you recommend that they have a script that is specifically written for a modest budget?
No.
No. Make
a great script, period, in a sentence. There are some things, if you're going to make it, sure, do what you
If they're going to make it.
If you're trying to sell it or pitch as a writer and get your foot in the door, do a great script. Don't give anyone your first draft. Don't tell anyone, hey, I just wrote this, read this. We don't have time. Make sure it's great. And in fact, let me give you some really bad advice about screenwriting for those that are in that world. Spend about a year on your script. Make it the best 3-act, because you still probably do 3-act scripts, right, nowadays. Make it phenomenal. Keep getting rewrites and notes and whatnot, and then take those 3 acts and then take the first act and the second act and throw them away. Just get rid of them. Because a genre film, and also tell you for the agents and whatnot, those films start where the monster's already chasing the bad guy. Okay? If you aren't going to start at that point and then go from there, you're kind of screwed. You know, you don't have the resume to say, hey, I won an Academy Award, go read my boring, 61st pages and about, character development. Character development, stupid. Okay. I do genre films, so, just forgive me. I'm not going to win any Academy Awards. I get it. That's the space I'm in. But I'm telling you right now, you really want to hold the attention. The person's going to read your script at the agency, a management company, a production company, is not going to be me. Because I don't read, I'm an executive, so we got that.
Do you read coverage?
Well, it's different from our company, so I'm just kind of telling you in the real world of making movies. It's going to be someone younger than you, someone's kid who's 15 years old, who's taking home a stack of easily 15 scripts that weekend. Easily. Okay, and has to not only read all the scripts, but do coverage, do a 5-page coverage, 3 to 5 page coverage on this. Dialogue was, this, and then write synopses and whatnot. They will stop reading after the first 3 pages. And then just go, yeah, this is crap, whatever it is. If you get them past the first act or the teaser, you've made it to the halfway point. More 50% won't do that. So, so you want to make sure that your teaser, your first act are grabbing them and really, really holding on to them, because they're just not going to read. They're not going to care about, if you really want the character development, don't have that scene in the coffee shop where someone is, saying, well, when I was younger, I almost drowned and it was really traumatic, and oh, I'm so sorry about that happened. Yeah, and so I stay away from pools, and no one cares. I want that scene when they're running down the hill towards the lake, and the monster's just 50 yards behind them, and one of them jumps in, the other one almost jumps in and stops, and the other in the lake's like, come on, the monster's coming. He's like, I can't get in there. Like, why not get in? I can't do it. I don't know how to swim. I almost drowned when I was 4. It's like, oh, well, there's the conflict right there. That's the moment that you're talking about, and I didn't have to waste a coffee shop scene for that. And that's where the
show it, don't say it.
Show it, don't say it. Yeah.
Okay.
So those are the things to kind of make sure that you're doing, getting those scripts so that they're going to read them. They're going to either they're not going to make it, but they're going to at least say you're a great writer and let me give you something else. Even if it's a great script, they're going to go, that's nice. Well, we have this over here. And then even if you write a script and you sell it to the studio is going to put their writer on it, and you're not going to get the credit anyways. But you'll get a $20,000 check. It'll be lovely. That you spent 4 years on living on someone's couch to do. So I'm not jaded.
So let me ask you. That's fantastic advice for new writers. For new directors, you've seen countless independent films. The Asylum acquires independent movies.
We don't normally.
Not normally. Okay.
We have an AVOD channel, which is a streaming channel that you can get on Roku, Tubi, Vudu. It's the Asylum channel, and so because we have a library of 300 films of our own, that's how we populate it. There's going to be a point we're going to have to acquire some in order to fill up those spaces, but at the moment, maybe we're acquiring 1 film a year, and that's because we know the person and they're struggling.
So when you're working with like a first-time feature director, what are some common mistakes that you've observed them make? Things to avoid.
Things to avoid. It's the first-time director. My Asylum world is different than the regular world.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of speak from my perspective.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Enthusiasm's good, but don't be a dick. The town is very small. Everyone knows each other. I mean, I was talking to their panelists, and we all are connected somewhere with, this person, know that person. It's like, and you're going to get work that way. You're going to get work off referrals. You're going to get work because someone is a fan of yours as a human being, not necessarily as an artist. Hopefully as an artist, but at this stage, probably as a human being. Don't be a jerk. You're not entitled. There's no entitlement to directing. You may have a passion for directing. have a vision of what you want to do. Understand that things happen on a set that will always challenge you, but don't lose your cool, because that's part of not being a dick.
Have you ever had to fire a director?
Yes. Is actually a good friend, and I didn't end up firing him. This is a while ago. I'll tell you how long ago it was. He was, because I handle all production at the Asylum, and so I have to make sure that everything that we make is what our client wants. And in this particular case, it was sci-fi, and I think the Japanese. And you have to hit certain beats. I don't care as an artist, you can do whatever you want to do, but just make sure, it's like, so for genre film, you're not going to hide the monster behind the shadows, okay?
Right.
Genre, you're going to show the damn monster, okay? You're going to show the blood and the guts, and you're going to exploit that, and because that's what the audience wants. They were shooting this film in Belize, and the director, I caught wind before they were shooting, the director was going to hide the monster kind of thing, and we got into it, and this is a friend, and he's an artist, and I'm like, I'm going to fire him. So I called up my partner. I pulled him out of, this is how you could date it, his Avatar screening, and said, look, I want you to know that I'm firing this director because he's not giving us what we want. He said, let me talk to him. So he talked to him, and then he calls back and said, he's fine. He'll do what you need.
Okay.
Like, okay. So I didn't have to fire him, and it turned out to be a great film, and we're still friends. And
good.
Yeah. But that was the closest I got. I'm not the firing type. I'll do it, I guess, but I just won't hire you again. And for me, that's a little more threatening for the people that I deal with, because I will make 25 films a year.
Yeah.
And if you want to make more movies, we have friends that work at the company that made 30, 40 movies. I mean, that's a career.
That's amazing.
In like 2 years, just on the stuff they do.
Wow.
So that's my threat. It's like, you're too much drama.
So
I need to deal with you.
Earlier today, David was kind enough to do a workshop, a pitching workshop, with several students here at DePaul School of Cinematic Arts. And it seems to be, and I myself included, one of the most stressful experiences for screenwriters, for directors, for producers to get in that room and pitch.
I was naked. That's why it was uncomfortable for everybody. This is Hollywood. So I wanted to keep it as real as possible.
It was warm in there. But, so can you give us any tips in terms of like what do you feel makes the perfect pitch?
Enthusiasm, confidence in the product, short, sweet, the ability to answer it in a way, a question that's asked of you that doesn't make you look like an idiot or you don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
One of them was pitching a horror film, and we're trying to get the tone. It's like, what's the tone? He said, well, it's funhouse horror. And I'm like, I love that answer. I don't know what it means, but I love it. So there's, don't stumble, don't look at your notes, the pitch should be short and easy and accessible enough where it's a line or two. We had another pitch that was a horror film, as a Wendigo monster film, which is a mythological beast back Native Americans, and she kind of went on and talked a lot about, the mythology and everything. It's like, no, it's a Wendigo film. All I need to hear is that. I mean, I get what it is. I get the monster. So you're putting it in this situation. Let me know about that situation. You don't have to go in 10 minutes about everything else.
But what do you need to hear before you decide, yes, this is something we want to do?
Tom Cruise is attached, and I have $20 million.
Right. But like, do you want to hear like the log line and just like a brief synopsis of the plot, or the tentpole moments, the set piece moments?
For us, it's a little bit different because our buyers tell us what we want to make. So we have already kind of, when they tell us what they want, let's say it's a Christmas movie for Hallmark, and they say, okay, we're looking for a Christmas movie. It has to take place in the mountains. It has to have a gingerbread house, whatever it is. we're going to take our development team and they're going to go to the 10 writers they know that could do a really good romantic comedy and go, all right, give me 10 pitches. And for us, it's never really an interaction. It's like, all right, they're going to give us like one line, log line.
Okay.
So, and then we're going to narrow it down from there, pick the top 5, make those into half a page, pick the top 3, make those into full 1 pages, then send it to Hallmark and go, okay, we have 3 great developed stories. Which one do you like? They're either going to say yes or no to the 3. If they say yes, then we expand that. So the pitching process isn't, you can't come to me and say, hey, I have the greatest thing in the world. It's going to win you all these Academy Awards. I don't care. So it's a little bit different on our end. I can just tell you just how the pitches in the general sense work. Just know what you're doing, and if you really want to lock them in, it's going to be that you have an IP, which is not going to be easy for you guys, or if you have a real story. I mean, you guys have experienced life, even if you're young, that you may be able to really capitalize on. Maybe it's even a parent or a relative or whatever it is that has a really unique story that's like, no, my uncle was a serial killer, isn't that, or investigated a serial killer, or saw a serial killer movie, I don't know, but whatever is interesting that you can come to the table with and go, this is mine.
Right.
And it's a wink IP, but it's, that helps a lot, okay? When it's something that no one else could do but you. Not because everyone's heard the same story. Everyone. These stories are not, as Shakespeare said, 12 stories and that's it. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, you just change the
personal connection to it, the unique angle on it.
Right.
So there's so much, like you had said earlier, there's so much content out there in the market. One of the things I absolutely love, I'm a big movie poster collector.
Me too.
You too. And I absolutely love the one sheet, the movie poster of the posters of the Asylum. It's like they're incredible. There's so much action going on. The visuals are great. The monsters are really fun. What would you say? We've got a lot of people at DePaul and at other schools in Chicago submitting their work to a lot of different film competitions out there. How does somebody get their indie noticed? How does their film stand up or stand apart from the crowd in terms of the marketing?
Make a really good film. I don't know, because I don't go in that path. But I will say this. If you stay at home and write and you do your work and you make the best scripts in the world, it's not going to mean anything if you don't get out there. The biggest thing that you could do, and the one thing I just keep pressing, is that no one, at least for my company, has ever hired off a resume. It's never going to happen. It's going to be because you know Chris, and Chris knows this, and it's who you meet and how you. I mean, it's so true. It's a small community. It's Here's the groundwork for it. Go to even if you don't have a film, go to the festivals, go to the seminars, go to every party you can, locally do the film commissions, go on set at Chicago PD, whatever it is, but every day go and try and meet a bunch of new people, and hand out your card, be a little obnoxious about, getting your foot in the door, because you were competing against everybody else, and there's not a lot of slots to fill. So if you are going to stay home and do nothing, your odds of doing something are very, very slim. So just keep going out to these
Put yourself out there.
So your indie film, I did an indie film, going out of school, and it was a crap. I guess you can imagine it's a crappy indie film. But what I did in college is that I created a magazine, a monthly publication called Take One Publication, and all I did it was so I could meet the heads of every studio and the producers of every big film that I ever wanted to make, because I knew that when I graduated, I needed to go after these people. So. Yeah. For good or for bad, the magazine actually became really successful, and so I ended up being a magazine publisher for a number of years. But that's a whole other story. Be careful what you wish for and don't wish for. But when I was done, in that process, I was able to give it to Kathleen Kennedy and Brandon Stoddard and all these people. I mean, the bad news is it was a crappy movie, so they were like, "That's nice." So nothing happened with it, but the intent was the same: is to really get out there and to make them notice you. And that was the way that I figured I could.
That's how you got noticed.
I had no industry connections.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in a couple of minutes, if you look over to the side of the room here, it's a little dark. David will be taking questions for folks that would like to talk to him one-on-one. If you just want to get up, oh good, we've got a spotlight there, microphone there. And we will have our first question coming up in just a sec. Oh, right now we're ready. Okay, first question, please.
Anybody?
The Invisible Man.
Wow.
Excellent question. Okay. So, David, is there...
In the meantime.
Sure. Is there like a typical week at the Asylum? Is every week different from the other in terms of like going from development to pre-production to production to post?
There definitely is kind of a preset kind of way that we go about it, but everything, film production is, every show is different, every problem is different, every moment is different, and you just have to kind of roll with it and anticipate some of the problems. Understand that it's not the end of the world if things collapse on you. I mean, sometimes it is, but for the most part, it's pretty chill from the Asylum's point of view because we'll just figure it out. We have our set staff meetings and our staff, set, schedules of how things go, but it never really follows any set pattern in that regard.
Okay, so just expect the unexpected.
Always expect the unexpected, and it's not. Again, it's not the end of the world. I mean, things go over budget. Things, actors don't go out of their trailer. Props don't work. Cameras break down. And it's stressful, but this is when you're challenged. If it was all easy peasy, well, I would do it. Oh, I guess I'm doing it. It happens, and it's okay, and you just have to figure it out.
Okay. We've got our first question.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because you already own all your IP and you self-fund all your films, have you ever considered going away from typical channels distribution and using the internet to directly connect with an audience?
Well, most of our stuff can be downloaded illegally. So thank you for that.
So have you ever considered investing in something that could be ad-supported media? So you could still make that revenue?
Well, we recently, the AVOD service, Advertising Video On Demand services, became available to our company. So the Tubi, the Vudu, the Roku, and so we have our own channel. So that stuff is available for free for the general population. It's like broadcast television. It's very set, at 8 o'clock, this is when the show's on, 9 o'clock, that's, and there's ads in it. Outside of that, no, because the models don't, for us, we haven't figured out how the models work where we could keep the doors open. But we keep talking about, it's like, well, maybe, we could do some interstitial thing or some video thing or behind the scenes of the Asylum stuff. But we're too lazy.
Yeah. I see like a lot of potential with meme culture for you guys to be able to really rapidly market.
It's something
films.
Yeah, that's why we need young virgin blood at the Asylum, so so that we can take advantage of that. Because quite frankly, that stuff is a little bit generational, and we're not there, and so we need to kind of understand a little bit more about how that works. But you're right, I don't disagree. I just don't know how to monetize it.
I do.
I know.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Eric.
Yeah. I'm seeing you in Hollywood.
Okay. Next question. Come on down.
Okay.
Is she coming down? Oh, they're signing forms. They have to sign forms.
Very, very good.
So.
Well, what do we want to talk about now?
Well, what are we looking at for the rest of 2019? What are the big Asylum productions that we'll be seeing?
I don't know if it was said, but we make 2 films a month. So in addition to that, we're doing a couple things with Hallmark. Christmas movies. Shocker. From here, I actually go to New York so that we could start putting together some more TV series.
Oh, wow.
And see what happens there.
Pitching to sci-fi or?
Amongst others.
Okay.
Yeah. yeah, we're always making these movies, and it's just a question of what we can put on top of that. The ice cream on top of that. The bigger films, the Lifetime movies. I mean, you may know us for Sharknado, but we've done about 30 to 50 movies for Lifetime, for Ion, BET, Animal Planet.
Animal Planet.
Animal Planet. A whole host of, broadcast. I mean, it just depends how old you are. It's like we're either we're the art house company, we're the horror company, we're the mockbuster company, we're the schlocky monster movie company, we're the Lifetime company. Wear
a lot of hats.
We're the studio, so we don't necessarily, are in one place. We kind of handle a lot of stuff.
Hi, question.
Hi. First, I just want to thank you for this opportunity to be here and to listen and to learn. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
I'm wondering if it is like an antiquated way of thinking to follow the mindset of like having a production that runs from a theatrical standpoint, gathering sponsors from that regard, and then kind of turning that momentum into a screenplay version. And then being able to walk through the door saying, hey, I'm here and I got my sponsors.
You mean investors?
Exactly. Investors and sponsors is what I was thinking.
It depends on who you're going to see. Company like mine, we've only co-produced with one other company. That was Nick Carter. We did a film called Dead Seven. It was a passion project for him. And we said, and he was a co-investor on it. He put his own money in, and he also brought in all the boy band people that we ever wanted to have, which was fantastic. But so it just depends. I mean, it doesn't hurt to have investors, sponsors. If you're really talking about traditional sponsors of like, hey, I got Coca-Cola coming in, well, that could be a problem with a Netflix or someone that or a broadcaster that has a deal with Pepsi. So it may not be something that you just have to kind of feel it out and see where they are with it. Most other real producers love the idea that someone else has money and they don't have to work so hard. We're just not that place, but it's helpful, I would imagine.
It could be used.
Yeah.
It could be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Do you do product placement in any of your films?
We do and we don't. Every time we do, it always backfires because they don't. Product placement is if someone's holding up a Coke can. It's like, hey, I'm gonna drink this, and it's Aquafina. They paid for that moment, so you have to kind of go, hey, Monster coming this way. We're gonna do. But Aquafina, I don't mean to pick on them because I have no idea really where they're at with it, but they really micromanage how it is. So, how much screen time it is, how they're holding the bottle, who's holding the bottle, if it's the villain, if it's the hero, how it's used in the show. And then maybe after it's done edited, they may pay you. Okay?
Oh, so it's not up front.
It's not up front. There's a lot of conditions to it to make sure it happens.
Oh, wow.
And so you could waste the entire time doing it. Or, one of my favorites, and I said no to this, we were doing a film for Lifetime, and it revolved around this beautiful necklace. And they got a necklace there, and it was a $6,000, or I think it was like a $60,000 necklace. This pissed me off, because it could be costume jewelry. What the hell, who knows about, but the line producer, anyways, the director, and they had to have a guard on there. But so I had to pay for the guard.
Oh gosh.
Okay, and I had to pay like $1 million insurance. And if I would have dinged or lost it, I would have been responsible for that piece of jewelry. And so they don't tell you that. It's like, this doesn't help at all. We did not make enough money to incur this kind of expense. Sharknado was different. Sharknado really played into all the product placement. So, and that basically came from Comcast, which was the parent company of Sci-Fi. And so they would just do a lot of Xfinity or Comcast-y things that just threw in there because they put money into it. So it's like, no, we want the main star to go, hey, where do I find the news for the Today Show? Oh, it's on the new Xfinity app. And so, yeah.
Well, David, could you leave us with any parting words of wisdom?
Sit in the no seat section. That's it. Just if you have a passion for it, go for it. Don't be quiet about your career and what you want to do. No one's going to hand you anything. Don't take things for granted. Don't think that someone else has handled this is now the line producer of me, that anyone else can handle it. Always have contingency and fallback plans. Your stuff is I'm sure fantastic, but there are other people that are better than you. There are people that actually make better films than me, okay? But I'm here and they're not. And there's a reason for that, is because I'm an ass and, and tenacious and I, love what I do. So, it keeps me going forward. And surround yourself with people that support that and have the same passion and aren't going to hold you back. Mm-hmm. And boy, there's 1,000 things, but there you go.
Let's give a hand to David Michael Latt. Thanks so much. It's great.